Time now for the trade chart here on Fantasy Football Today. I'm Jamie Eisberg. That's Dave Richard, the creator of the trade chart. You can check it out on CBSSports.com. We're giving you some buy lows and sell high candidates as we head into a busy week 7. 6 teams in a bye. Lots of teams and players dealing with injuries in your fantasy leagues. And Dave's going to try and help you make some trades to maybe save your roster as you're struggling heading into this important week as we get to the middle of the season. So, Dave, let's look at a couple buy low options here. And we'll start with one in particular at the wide receiver position, Devonte Smith, who has not been good the last couple of weeks. He's watching A.J. Brown just ring up numbers. Dallas Goedert's had a couple good games recently. Smith has not. Is now the time to go get him?
I think it is, because he hasn't done anything big the last couple of weeks. It's opened the buy low window, and the matchups coming up for Philadelphia suggest that they're going to have to put up points. For example, they're playing Miami in week number 7. I don't know if they can get it done with just A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift against the Dolphins. They need to get Devonte Smith going. He's a field stretcher. And you remember the second half of last season, Jamie, when he really started to take off? He was consistent for 15-plus PPR points. I think he can get there again. I love the idea of trying to trade for him. Giving up a running back like Brian Robinson or Ramondre Stevenson coming off of his big game. Jerome Ford, if you can swing it, you might have to throw in something with Jerome Ford. Those are 3 running backs I'd try and move to get Devonte on my team.
I would think you have to probably throw something else on top of that, because as a Devonte Smith manager, I'm not taking those running backs for him, knowing what he can be. The one thing about the second half for him last year, Dallas Goedert was injured for a big portion of that. So hopefully it does not take an injury to one of the other 2 guys for Devonte to be Devonte again. And we'll see if Lane Johnson's absence hurts that Eagles offense, because when he is not there, the Eagles just are not the same. Christian Watson's another buy low candidate for you. So coming off the bye for the Packers, last time we saw him in week 5, he was really one of the few bright spots for the Packers offense. No Aaron Jones, that might change some things. Offensive line's been certainly a work in progress without David Bakhtiari there. And Jordan Love has been very up and down. So can he support Christian Watson to the point where you want to go get him, and what are you giving up to go trade for him?
I think the Green Bay Packers offense will be better coming out of the bye. I think the offensive line will get their act together. Getting Aaron Jones back, that'll make it harder for defenses to defend against them. And I'm hoping that the Packers coaching staff doesn't try and really slow down Jordan Love, because I like the fact that he's attacking downfield so much. That's what's made him so boom and bust for fantasy. But Watson should be able to help him in that regard. And I view him as somebody who could eventually be a top 20 type of fantasy wide receiver. Tyler Lockett and Terry McLaurin just had huge games. If I can turn one of them into Christian Watson, I would. Evan Engram really hasn't been heard from lately. You're going to have to throw in something with him to get Christian Watson. What about Jaleel McLaughlin? Somebody who's been kind of popular in fantasy circles, could eventually be the lead back in Denver. You might be able to get rid of him and turn him into Christian Watson now, selling him on the idea, selling the other manager on McLaughlin being the guy.
If there is a Christian Watson manager who trades him for Jaleel McLaughlin, they should never play fantasy again. Do not make that trade.
Why?
Because Jaleel McLaughlin is not in the same category as Christian Watson.
He's a better category, you're saying.
Watson isn't a much better category. I'm not taking Jaleel McLaughlin if I'm a Christian Watson fantasy manager. You better give me something. If you want to trade Christian Watson, it should be Tyler Lockett and McLaughlin. That's the first place I would look to talk to. I'm not taking Jaleel McLaughlin straight up.
Might be willing to do something like that, because I think Lockett, after the game he just had, should be somebody you sell high on.
All right, let's talk about some sell high candidates here, and we'll start with Raheem Mostert, who has been absolutely unbelievable. So we know there's still 3 more games without Devon Achane. He's so far set a career high in rushing touchdowns with 11. He's in the same category as Sean Alexander, who in 2005 was the NFL MVP. Is Raheem Mostert not necessarily going to keep this up, but is he going to still be very productive for the next 3 games? And what are you looking to get for him if you're trying to sell him?
I think the matchups coming up for him are going to be difficult. And I think you're going to see the Dolphins eventually veer back to being a passing team until they get Devon Achane back, and then that's going to cut into Raheem Mostert's work. I think this is exactly the right time to trade away Raheem Mostert, knowing that the Eagles, the Patriots, the Chiefs, all on deck for Miami, and then they're on bye after that. And there's some good matchups after the bye. I'm not sure if he's going to be the guy. And Jamie, you've talked about it before. He's 31 years old. He has a litany of injuries in his past. There is definitely a path for him cratering. And so if you can turn him into something great, could you get Breece Hall for him? I wouldn't do that. I'd rather have Breece Hall, but somebody else might do it to get Raheem Mostert. CeeDee Lamb, off the strength of his one game. Chris Olave, another one. I think that they're all in the same range on the trade chart, just Mostert a little bit lower. But that's where I'd start if I'm trying to trade away Raheem Mostert, to try and sell high on him.
There's no way the Breece Hall manager is doing that. I think
I don't think so either, but I'd try.
If you're trying to trade Raheem Mostert, you're trying to buy low on someone like Tony Pollard. You're trying to buy low on Saquon Barkley.
The Pollard manager won't do that, and the Barkley manager won't.
But they might, because of how bad. Certainly Pollard might right now, because Pollard's on a bye coming off a struggling game, and knowing that you don't have him for next week. I think the Pollard manager would absolutely consider that. The Austin Austin Eckler manager might consider that, knowing that he just had a bad game. So you're trying to turn what could be 3 weeks of what you just saw, and really the matchups don't matter to me, because the way this Dolphins offense is operating right now, I don't think he's going to get shut down. He may get slowed down, but he's not going to get shut down. And you mentioned the Patriots. One of his best games was against the Patriots, so I don't worry about that matchup at all.
Is it too pie in the sky to ask for Devonte Adams for Raheem Mostert?
Not at all. And you know what? If I'm the Adams manager, I'm giving him away for Raheem Mostert.
Interesting.
With the shoulder injury he has right now, absolutely I'd be giving away Devonte Adams for Raheem Mostert.
We view guys differently. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't want injured players on my team. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts.
Mostert might be that guy soon.
He's not now. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts, who's coming off his best 2-game stretch of the season. At this point, though, if you have Kyle Pitts and knowing that you drafted him to be this breakout tight end, you're not holding him. You're looking to trade him for what?
If I can sell high on him, I'll do it, because I don't want to live in the moment and recognize that Kyle Pitts' last 2 games are great. I'm not forgetting about where he was the first 4 weeks of the season. People were cutting Kyle Pitts because he was so bad. Smart fantasy managers held on to him, and now there's an option. You can stick with him and still get around 10 PPR points as a floor, or you can try and turn him into somebody that's got some serious upside. Jahmyr Gibbs. Christian Watson we just talked about. That's somebody you might be able to go and get. James Cook has been a disappointment. Maybe you trade Cook or Pitts for Cook. But I wonder if you just go ahead and you try and sell high on Pitts. He just seems like one of those players that when he has a big game, you try and move on from him, even if it means having to stream tight ends.
All right, we'll see if Pitts can keep it going for 1 more week as they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week number 7. Desmond Ridder playing well. Some young players, we'll see if they can keep it up, and you want to get some information on some players on the rise and certainly guys that can help you long term, check out the Fantasy Football Today Dynasty podcast. Heath Cummings does a great job hosting that one. You can find it wherever podcasts are available.